Welcome to the Health Headliner podcast by Tudu Digital. Our content is informational only and not medical advice. Please consult your provider. Now, let's dive into today's headlines.
Have you ever noticed how your brain seems to anticipate what's going to happen next? Almost like it's filling in the blanks. Like when you walk into a restaurant, you just kind of already know what to expect. You'll be seated, get a menu, order food, and so on, It turns out there's a reason for that.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, our brains are constantly building these mental shortcuts called schemas based on all of our past experiences.
Okay.
And these schemas help us navigate the world just more efficiently by predicting what's coming next.
So it's like our brains are always trying to create a story even before it unfolds.
Exactly. And a new study published in Communication Psychology, it really dives into how these schemas work, especially when it comes to memory. They actually used fMRI to look inside people's brains while they were watching wedding videos.
What?
From fictional cultures.
Okay, now that sounds intriguing. Wedding videos and brain scans.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Well, they created two distinct cultures, a North culture and a South culture.
Okay.
Each with their own unique wedding rituals, like a campfire, planting a flower, dropping a coin in a bowl.
Okay.
But the order of these rituals was different for each culture.
Oh.
Think of it like learning the customs of a brand new country.
So the participants' brains were working overtime to make sense of these new traditions, right?
Right.
Trying to figure out, okay, what happens next in this culture?
Precisely. And the fMRI scans showed some amazing things.
Oh, wow.
They found that our brains actually create multiple codes to understand and remember these temporal schemas.
Multiple codes, so it's not just one simple process.
No, not at all. One of the most prominent codes they found is the schema code. It's like your brain's way of quickly recognizing the overall context. So in this study, the schema code helped distinguish between North and South weddings,
Okay.
no matter what specific ritual was happening.
So even if they were watching the coin drop, in both the North and South weddings, the schema code would help them categorize it as either North or South.
Yes. And what's really cool is that the strength of this schema code directly impacted how well they remembered details from the weddings.
Hold on. So the stronger your mental framework, the better your memory. Now, how does that work?
Well, it's like having a well-organized filing system.
Okay.
Imagine your brain is trying to file away information about a specific wedding ritual.
Okay.
If you have a strong schema for the culture's weddings, it's like having a clearly labeled folder where everything fits perfectly.
Yeah.
But if your schema is weak, it's more like stuffing things randomly into a drawer.
Okay.
Harder to find later.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So basically, the clearer our schema, the easier it is to store and retrieve memories.
Exactly. But it gets even more interesting. Remember how I said there were multiple codes?
Yes.
They also discovered a path code,
Okay.
which is all about remembering the precise sequence of rituals within each culture.
So if the schema code is like the file folder, is the path code more like a numbered list?
You got it.
Okay.
It helps us keep track of the specific order of events.
Yeah.
And then there's the rotated preceding ritual code, which is like your brain comparing notes.
Okay, I'm really curious about that one. Comparing notes, how?
Well, this code focuses not only on what's happening right now, but also on what just happened.
Okay.
It's almost like your brain is constantly checking, okay, we just did this ritual, and now we're doing this one.
So it's like creating a mental timeline of the events. Now, that is some serious multitasking.
And finally, there's the current ritual code, which is simply focused on what's happening in the present moment.
So it's like having 4 different systems working together to create this complete picture of the event.
Exactly. You've got one for the overall cultural context, the schema code, one for the specific sequence, the path code,
Okay.
one comparing past and present, the rotated preceding ritual code, and one just focused on the here and now, the current ritual code. It's an incredibly sophisticated system.
Wow, it really makes you appreciate the complexity of our brains.
It does.
But if our brains are constantly making predictions based on schemas, wouldn't that also mean that sometimes we might misinterpret things or even misremember them?
That's a great question. And it's something we'll dive into further as we explore how these schemas play out in everyday life. You're absolutely right to point that out. Our schemas, they can sometimes lead us astray.
Okay.
Especially, when we encounter something that doesn't quite fit our expectations.
So let's say you have a really strong restaurant schema in your mind, but then you go to this new, super trendy place where they do things a little differently. Could that throw you off?
Definitely.
Yeah.
If they say brought out all the courses at once, or maybe you order at a counter instead of having a waiter, it can disrupt your whole experience.
Right.
You might even misremember things because you're trying to fit them into your pre-existing schema.
It's like trying to squeeze a square peg into a round hole. You mentioned earlier that the study focused on wedding rituals, but schemas obviously apply to so much more than just weddings.
Absolutely. Think about your morning routine.
Yeah.
You probably have a pretty set sequence of events: waking up, brushing your teeth, having coffee, and so on. That's your morning schema at work.
And I'm guessing most of us wouldn't handle it very well if something threw off that routine. But it makes you wonder, are schemas always set in stone, or can they change over time?
That's a great question. The good news is that our schemas are actually quite flexible.
Okay.
They're constantly being updated and refined as we encounter new experiences.
So going back to that trendy restaurant example, if you go there a few more times and get used to their unique way of doing things, your restaurant schema might start to adapt.
Precisely. And that adaptability is what makes schemas so powerful.
Okay.
They allow us to learn from our experiences and navigate the world, more efficiently.
It's almost like we're constantly fine-tuning our mental maps as we explore new territory. But I do have to ask, this study used visual and auditory information through those wedding videos. Do you think other senses could play a role in schema formation too?
That's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
And it's definitely an area where, more research is needed. But I think it's very likely that all our senses contribute to building these mental frameworks.
I mean, just think about the smell of freshly baked cookies.
Right.
It can instantly transport you back to your childhood kitchen, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's your baking cookies schema being activated by a powerful sensory cue.
Yeah.
And those kinds of multisensory experiences can make our schemas even more robust and our memories more vivid.
So if the researchers had included scents in those wedding videos, like the smell of pine needles during the campfire ritual, it might have had an even bigger impact on the participants' memories.
It's certainly possible. It'd be fascinating to see future studies explore how different sensory modalities interact to shape our schemas and ultimately our memories.
So this is all pretty mind-blowing stuff.
It is.
We've learned that our brains are creating these intricate mental models.
Right.
But we also have to be aware of the potential pitfalls. What are some things our listeners should keep in mind as they go about their day?
Well, the first step is simply awareness.
Okay.
Once you understand how schemas work, you can start to pay attention to those moments when you're relying on them.
Okay.
Even unconsciously.
So basically becoming more mindful of those autopilot moments in our lives.
Exactly. And once you're more aware, you can start to question whether your schemas are serving you well.
Right.
Or if they might be leading to biases or misunderstandings.
It's like that saying, don't believe everything you think. We have to be willing to challenge our own assumptions, especially when they're based on outdated or incomplete information.
That's a great point. And the beauty of it is that we have the power to change our schemas.
Okay.
We can actively seek out new experiences that challenge our existing frameworks.
Right.
And broaden our perspectives.
So it's not just about recognizing our schemas, but also about actively shaping and refining them over time.
Precisely. And that's an ongoing process. We're constantly learning, evolving, and adapting our mental models to better understand the world around us.
This has been such an insightful discussion.
Oh, it has.
But I know this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to schema research. What are some of the big unanswered questions that scientists are still exploring?
Well, one of the key questions is how schemas influence our decision-making process. Do we always make rational choices?
Yeah.
Or are we sometimes swayed by our pre-existing mental frameworks?
That's a great point. And how do schemas play a role in creativity? Can having strong schemas sometimes limit our ability to think outside the box? Or can they actually spark new and innovative ideas? It really makes you wonder, are we truly in control of our own thoughts and decisions? Or are we just playing out the scripts that are already written in our minds?
That's a profound question, and I don't think there's an easy answer. But that's what makes this research so exciting. It's pushing us to think differently.
Yeah.
About how our minds work and how we interact with the world.
It definitely makes those everyday autopilot moments feel a lot more complex now. But I guess that's the beauty of learning something new. It changes the way you see things.
Exactly. And, the more we understand about schemas, the more we can, harness their power for good.
Okay.
For instance, educators are exploring how schemas can be used to enhance learning and memory in the classroom.
So instead of seeing schemas as limitations, we can actually use them as tools to learn and grow.
Absolutely. Imagine if teachers could help students develop strong schemas
Right?
for key concepts, making it easier for them to understand and retain information. That could be a game changer for education.
That's an amazing thought. And thinking beyond the classroom, could understanding schemas also help us become more empathetic and understanding of people from different cultures or backgrounds?
I believe so.
Yeah.
When we recognize that everyone operates from their own unique set of schemas, shaped by their individual experiences,
Right.
it can foster greater tolerance and understanding. It reminds us that there's not just one right way of seeing the world.
It's like taking off those mental blinders and realizing that there are so many different perspectives out there.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And embracing that diversity of thought is what fuels innovation and creativity. By challenging our own schemas and being open to new ways of seeing things, we open ourselves up to a world of possibilities.
So it's not just about recognizing our own schemas, but also about respecting and learning from the schemas of others.
Exactly. It's about building bridges of understanding rather than walls of division.
Yeah.
And that starts with recognizing the power and complexity of the human mind.
Well, I have to say, this deep dive has given me a whole new appreciation for the amazing things our brains are doing all the time, even when we're not aware of it.
It's truly remarkable, isn't it? And we've only just scratched the surface.
Right.
There's still so much to discover about how schemas shape our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors.
So for our listeners out there who are now feeling utterly fascinated by this topic, what would you recommend as a next step?
I encourage you to start paying attention to your own schemas. Notice those moments when you're making assumptions or predictions based on past experiences. Ask yourself, is this schema helpful in this situation, or could it be leading to bias or misunderstanding?
It's like becoming a detective of your own mind. And who knows, maybe you'll even start to see those aha moments where your schemas are challenged and expanded, leading to new insights and a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you.
That's the beauty of lifelong learning. We never stop growing and evolving.
And that's a perfect note to end on. A huge thank you to our expert for guiding us through this fascinating exploration of schemas and memory.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to keep exploring the amazing world of the human mind. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep those schemas flexible.
Thanks for tuning in to the Health Headliner podcast by To Digital. Like and subscribe for more health news and breakthroughs. Stay healthy and informed. See you next time.